So it's 6:30. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let's first please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I don't even think my thing is on. So I would like to note that Board President Kratzer is excused from the meeting for medical reasons, and at this moment in time, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Do I hear a motion?
I think it's a good idea. So moved.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I would like to raise a point. We're all aware, sadly, of the passage too soon of Mark Wojtowicz. Mark was a environmentalist, an activist, a columnist for the Shelton Journal, and a very good friend of the North Mason School District. Before we passed our bond, it was the first bond we passed in 30 years, Mark came to our aid and made a wonderful documentary film. And it clearly explained to the community the condition of our schools. He had some frame in it of the science lab with a plant going through it and some kind of line that your kids don't need to take field trips anymore. The field is coming to them. Anyway, and he made a shorter version, took us 2 times to pass that bond. So I think that what he did with that one film for us was settle the question for the community of whether or not the schools were in need of repair. So what I propose is that we as a board send a letter of condolence to his widow in Thanksgiving for all that he has done for our district, particularly in a very crucial time in its history. And just give her our condolence and best wishes.
So John, you're moving to approve, to amend the agenda?
Yeah, I'd like to amend the agenda to include
where would that go?
well, a motion
Within the-
on whether or not to send a letter of condolence to Mark Wojtowicz's widow.
Okay.
Okay, so we have a motion to amend the agenda to include voting on whether the board will send condolences to the Wojtowicz family. So we need to approve that amendment if we so choose. Do I hear a motion to approve that amendment?
I move to approve.
Second.
Great, so we will add that amendment to the agenda. I also have an amendment following the public and student board member comments. I'd like us to take a moment of silence for 1 minute for the death of our high school student, Audrey Trammell. Aubrey. Do I hear a motion to, or I guess I'm making that motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have an agenda now that has been amended to include voting to send condolences to the Wojtowicz family and having a moment of silence for Aubrey. Do I hear a motion to approve our new agenda?
Motion to approve our new agenda.
Thank you. And then we all take a vote? Okay. We'll start down here. Go ahead.
Are you in a roll call vote?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Laura vote, I vote yes.
Eric Kemberg, I vote yes.
Arla Shepherd-Bull, I vote yes.
John Campbell, I vote yes.
Morgan Thomas, I vote yes.
Audrey Johnson, I vote yes.
Thank you. Do we have any public comments on the agenda, Jackie?
No.
Okay. Student board member comments. Morgan?
Audrey, correct me if I miss anything, but so far everything's going good at the high school. We are preparing to end the year, and we're starting projects for next year already. It seems too soon. So that's fun. We have some groups working on freshman orientation for freshmen and the upcoming 8th graders. And we also have students already working on homecoming for later. That'll be, I believe, in October. So that'll be fun. Prom was a great success. We had a huge turnout at the Admiral. Everyone loved it. And it was a great fundraiser, too. It was beyond expectations from what we know so far. Anything else at the school?
There's also yearbook. We had Mr. Bonnell put it together, and that's gone really good, especially with not having much to work with. So that's been a success.
And then I have one last thing here. So this was recently brought to my attention that there is a career opportunity for kids ages 8 to 17, and it's called the Young Eagles, a Young Eagles flight. So kids can go up with private pilots and go fly in a small Cessna or whatever type of plane that's available at the time. This program's what got me interested in flying originally. And now they are looking to have 150 kids August 27th at the Bremerton Airport. So you go to EAA chapter 406.org and then find the Young Eagles tab and you can sign up there. And that's open for all kids ages 8 to 17. So
Very cool.
great career. It's a great introduction to flying, and I highly recommend it if you can make it. And if you don't want to be a pilot, it's just fun.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing.
Do they have any courtesy openings for school board members?
They have what we call a bald eagles flight for 18 and up.
I think I could qualify for that.
How old were you, Morgan, when you did
I
it?
was 11 or 12 when I first did it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a while ago, but I still remember it like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
It was an amazing experience.
Cool.
That's so cool. Thank you for sharing.
welcome.
Anything
Well,
else?
if some student doesn't show up, I mean, I would at least, put my name in.
Okay.
You're still a bald eagle, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we have the consent agenda in front of us. The consent agenda enables the board to efficiently deal with matters that have been delegated to the superintendent. But by law, we must approve this as a board. Items on the consent agenda are voted upon as one block and approved with one vote, but we can remove an item by a majority vote of the board. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? Or any, well, yeah, we'll start with that.
I move we accept the consent agenda as given.
All right, any discussion? I have some small points of discussion. But anybody else want to go first? Anything?
I would just like a little further discussion, or I guess, just let us know what the therapy travelers are.
That's one of the contractors that we work with that provide support for positions that we cannot find someone to.
Oh, I see.
Like sometimes school psychs or OTPT. That's Therapy Travelers is one of the contracting organizations that helps provide those services to our school.
Okay. And they're local? Or they?
Well, Washington.
All right. Okay, thank you.
I had noted in my notes, so one of our personnel hirings had been the former COVID testing coordinator, and I was curious if, as a district, we still need a COVID testing coordinator, or like what the requirements are from the state?
Yeah, the way things are looking, we might still need one in the fall. However, that position was grant funded for this year only.
Okay.
And we have not heard from the governor's office nor OSPI if they're going to fund a position again next year. If they do, we'll probably not hear till August or September. So Ricky is a really strong employee of the district, a graduate of North
Yeah.
Mason, and she took an opportunity to take another position with the
Yeah.
district.
Was it a requirement that we had a COVID testing coordinator
No,
at the
we
time?
chose
Okay.
to and it was, we were one of the first districts
Mm-hmm.
to write the grant and put one in
Okay.
place. And we were really glad that we did, because as we started the school year in the fall and we were testing so many kids and staff
Yeah.
members, some of our colleagues in other districts, teachers and classroom teachers and some principals, district office people were working almost 20 hours a day to make sure that they got their testing done. And we had probably just as much of a percentage, if not more, some days of testing as some of the other districts, but we had Ricky and our nurses, and together they were so efficient that
Yeah.
they could do those things during their workday primarily.
Yeah,
once
and not take
she
away.
got hired. Yeah, and not take away, because there were a lot of other extra things that staff had to do
Yeah.
without that piece as well.
Thank you for that information.
And just one other question.
For sure.
Director of Inclusive Education that is just a replacement title for our recent special education director.
No, it's a combination of special education and other categorical programs. So we've restructured the district office so that as we're moving towards a fully built, multi-tiered system of support for our students, both in our district and to meet state requirements that are coming into place, then the way that we meet the needs of students is not in the traditional way. Oh, you need to be supported, you have special education. Oh, you need to be supported in this way, you have English language support, or you have title or LAP. We're blending those funding models to provide the support just in time that kids need when they need it to be able to be successful. And so that means the way that we manage that needs to be more integrated than it was when you had a
Yeah.
silo of special ed and a silo of EL and a silo. So we're blending some of those, moving some jobs around and blending some jobs, and that's the new title. So that put together all of the federal and state programs under one person.
Okay.
So.
I think that's really appropriate. And then, so underneath that one person, will they have like coordinators or people
Yeah,
more specific to
Yeah, we have
different
hired a
areas?
data coordinator just recently, one of our other employees, Laura Pugh, a teacher
Oh,
at
yes,
the
yes.
middle school, has taken that position, our district data coordinator. And then a lot of the work in managing the federal programs is office assistant kinds of work. So we've added additional office assistant positions to support Kyle in that part of the work, so that the actually working with staff, building staff, and to support kids and family, he can be released from having to do I-grants and other things, and actually out working with staff. And then we're going to kind of be watching how that rolls out as we start, and if we have available funding, and if we have a need, we might add another certificated person in that area to support once we get started in the fall.
Thank you. I had a couple comments on the Comprehensive School Counseling Program Policy number 2140. I noted a typo on line 23. It just looked like that third word maybe should have been crossed out, or
Okay.
and then I just in general was curious about striking the word guidance and kind of just what the motivation for some of these changes were.
Yeah, these changes came from state legislation and a requirement that districts develop a comprehensive plan for school counseling, and then that we follow that plan. During this year, we have had a committee composed of our counselors and designated administrators to begin the work on the development of that plan. The board will have to approve our plan next fall. when it's ready.
Okay.
And that plan is required to follow the American School Counseling Association, ASCA, model. And there's a very big difference in how we describe what counselors do now, and that's the reason to go from guidance counseling to school counselor. Because a guidance counselor is a very limited portion of what a school counselor does. They don't only help kids look at what they're going to do
Career path.
next in life, but they provide a lot of other counseling supports for in their current life and
Like
social,
mental health
emotional, and all
counseling
of those things, and coordinate some of the social emotional supports that will be or are available to kids in schools. So that's why the wording change.
Okay, thank you. I also noted that we took away, under the jury duty policy change, we took away the fact that we're not going to be asking for the money back if you get paid for jury duty, which is great. And just a note on, why did we even have that in the first place? But it sounds like it's just sort of a leftover.
Yeah, it's leftover old language, and actually, as we looked back as far as we could, and the district has never actually tried to collect the reimbursement.
Right.
And then we checked with other districts, and it's not common practice to do anymore, and the reimbursement is so small that it would cost us more almost to have our business office manage the collection than we would be collecting.
Right.
So.
And the out of endorsement teachers, I was curious when we say, I didn't see, we never say like what they're actually teaching out of their endorsement, or is it just a blanket they can teach?
No, they are specifically teaching out of their endorsement. It's different for each teacher. Mr. Campbell has a period of middle school social studies, and he has English and music performance credentials. So and you are allowed to teach out of, for a certain portion of your day, but we also have to report it under OSPI requirements. And Mr. Barker has special education and PE endorsements, and he's kind of caught in a time warp, I guess, almost, because when he began teaching, and until very recently, a special education teacher to teach special education, any of the resource room things, only needed to have a special education credential, but in recent years, it has been a special education credential and the content area that you've been teaching. But, he's been teaching special education math for about 30 years. And
I see.
so
He's teaching out of
he's
endorsement.
teaching
in
out of
math.
endorsement
I
when
see.
he teaches his math sections.
But it's to his special ed students.
But it's to his special
Oh, that's
ed
interesting.
students,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
Is there any other discussion on the consent agenda? Okay. Hearing none, I will entertain a
There
call
is a
for a
motion.
vote.
There's a
Yes,
motion.
a second.
We don't need a second.
Okay, so I'm
Yeah.
going to call for a vote
Yeah.
on the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Then that carries. So now we are at Resolution 6G22, Delegation Authority to the Washington Interscholastic Activities Association, WIAA. It's the organization governing athletics and interscholastic activity and competitions in Washington State. We annually delegate certain authority to the WIAA, and it is time to name a board member, contact, and adopt the WIAA resolution. Do I hear a motion to approve and adopt this resolution and a nomination for a delegate?
I move to adopt the resolution 06G22 and to appoint Mr. Yumberg.
Perfect. Is there a discussion on that?
I think it's a great idea. I founded a little group called People for Youngberg.
I also think it's a great idea and had
And I'm happy to do
asked
it.
him beforehand if he was okay with that. So do I hear a second? Or do
We
we
don't
need to have
need
a
a
second?
second.
Okay. So I will call for a vote. All in favor of approving and adopting Resolution 06G22, delegating authority to WIAA with our delegate, Eric Youngberg.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries. So now we're at the fun part, our presentation from the 8th grade Project Citizen group. Go ahead. Who can come on forward?
We're not that scary.
Yeah, come on. Introduce yourself, please.
We have to do it next time.
Thank you for having us. Come on up, ladies and gentlemen.
I just need you guys to say yes. This looks okay.
Yes. Will you introduce yourselves?
Hello, I'm Bradley Williams.
I'm Dylan Trudeau.
I'm Sophia Maris.
I'm Lionel Luzolo. I'm Jariel Barajas.
Wonderful. Would you, go ahead, like to share?
Hello, thank you for inviting us. We are here to talk about our Project Citizen proposed policy. Project Citizen teaches kids to work with complex governments and to create public policies to help with problems in their community. Our class voted from a long list of problems and the majority picked school shootings. So we came up with the policy to prepare for and prevent these school shootings because we think that school shootings are not only bad because they can harm and kill people, but because school shootings and the threat of them can also harm people mentally by giving them mental disabilities like anxiety, depression, and or PTSD. Our school has had 2 major threats this year. One threat was in December, but was dealt with accordingly before the school had to be closed. But the second threat had the upper campus closed for a day. Next, you will hear more statistics from Dylan about school shootings.
Hi, I will be sharing some of the facts and statistics about school shootings. And according to Identiv, in the U.S. alone, there have been 288 school shootings since 2009, but there are still many shootings all around the world. And gun violence affects around 3 million U.S. students, and from 2000 to 2017, there was an average of 2 to 3 shootings a year. And in that same time frame, 67 people were killed and 86 were wounded. And according to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, schools are the second most active shooting locations after places of commerce. Next, you will be hearing personal testimony from Sophia.
I'll be sharing our personal testimonies. So when we had school shooting threats in December, there was a total of 9 kids in our class because students and staff felt unsafe in the school environment. There should have been 30. A statement from our classmate Haley. Personally, I felt scared because the sheriff's office determined that if we were to go to school, it would be unsafe, and that made me nervous about the other days of school. The other 8th grade personal testimonies go on to state that they felt unsafe on school grounds. I have been exposed to gun violence at school before, and if we had had our current proposed policy implemented, I believe the problem would have been dealt with much better. Thank you for listening. Owen will be talking about our policy now.
Hi, I'm Owen. We are proposing to have ALICE training 3 times per year, random luck or searches twice per month, and metal detectors at all the main entrances. We are proposing these because we feel like our school would be much safer with them in place. City officials in Brooklyn on December 3rd, 2021, placed metal detectors at the school because they had found a loaded gun on the campus. Within the first day, they turned up 21 weapons that were trying to enter the school. This is a scary statistic because we can only imagine how many weapons make it into schools without these metal detectors. We are proposing to have ALICE training 3 times per year because it prepares students for what to do and where to go in case of a school shooting. We are proposing to have random locker searches because it deters students from bringing weapons and other contraband into the school and putting them in their lockers. Thank you for listening, and now Yariel will be talking about our action plan.
I'll be talking about what we have done for our action plan. 8 volunteers went to the weekly administration meeting on May 5th, 2022, and we talked about some of the problem, alternative policies, our policy, and our action plan. Our class also puts up our boards, binder, and flyers at parent-teacher conferences on April 28th, 2022. We did not get very much feedback for this, and we not really gained supporters. Some people who support our proposed policy are Dana Rosenbach and Leona Kreutzer, who support metal detectors and locker checks, Arlo Shepherd-Bowl, who supports 2 additional ALICE trainings and bag checks / searches, Mr. Callahan, Mr. Grunberg, and Scotty, the school sheriff?
Security.
Security
Security
guard. Okay. Support the 2 additional ALICE trainings also. Dana Rosenbach also talked to us about the next government grant, which would be very useful to buy the metal detectors that will cost $24,600 to $25,000 to $200. Okay, so $25,200. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from the board here?
Well, I just want to really thank you for going into this topic so deeply and for your suggestions. I think they're very valid, and it would be a way for us to spend money to keep things from happening that shouldn't happen. And it would help you feel safer while you're trying to learn. So I do appreciate all of your work.
I also appreciate your work and coming here and sharing with us. I know it's not easy. This whole topic is very hard and heartbreaking. I'm curious about amongst your classmates, like in your class, was it pretty unanimous, these recommendations? Everybody felt strongly about all 3? Okay, thank you.
Oh, as one has seen an earlier version of this presentation, I want to commend you all for the obvious hard work that you've put into this. And you've certainly come a good distance, and I think the thesis you're arguing is much clearer than was the earlier version. So thank you for your concern as citizens for an issue that ought to be on everyone's lips, and for your research and your passion and compassion for your fellow students. So thank you very much.
I want to thank you guys for being here. This takes a lot, and it is a big deal to sit here and talk in front of everybody and go through all this, right? Great job. Every single one of you, just wonderful job. This is super important to you guys, not only to you guys, I know to all of us. It's an important topic that will definitely look what we're doing here, so thank you.
And if I can, Morgan.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to make sure you guys understand, sometimes when we have those administrator meetings, the principals don't always talk and ask a lot of questions. That doesn't mean that they weren't engaged with your presentation. And I want you to know that the district building leaders and the school safety committee that is composed of representatives from all of our different employee groups are taking your recommendations very seriously as we review and update our safety planning documents and talk about how we can make these things happen. So I really do want to thank you for your hard work and let you know that the adults really did listen to you, okay?
And for your faith in democratic government, that it can actually work. Wouldn't that be something?
Morgan, you were trying to say something?
Yeah, so I am glad to see you guys take this to the final step. It takes a lot of courage to do something like this, come and talk in front of a panel of administrators here. And I got the privilege of also seeing a earlier version of this. And this is, you guys have improved. I'm glad to see you guys did your homework. You guys did a good job, and I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of this as the future, in the future. But I did have one question. When you guys were talking about your student testimonies, you said one of your students didn't feel safe coming to school because the sheriff said it wasn't safe. Is that correct? Okay. So when was this exactly?
The personal testimony?
Yeah. What, yeah, do you know what time she's talking about specifically?
I think she's talking about the December,
December?
July 25th, I think, is when it was closed.
January.
January?
It was the January threat that the sheriff asked us to close school for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things, the sheriff's department is very good and very thorough at this. I know you guys probably know this, but just for the record, and if they deem something unsafe, they will shut the building down, they will shut the school down like they eventually did. But they deemed it safe, and sure enough, luckily it was. So,
It's valid to feel that way, though.
yeah, it is scary, but they won't, they're the professionals, so they know what they're talking about.
Okay.
Overall,
Any-
great job, you guys.
Any other
And I want to
questions?
thank the board as well. I'm Julie Lester, I have them in my class, and they're going to be presenting their findings to the state showcase for Project Citizen on Saturday.
Wonderful.
And it's going to be in our building, because unfortunately we can't go down to Olympia yet, it's still shut down. All the past years we've been down in Olympia and sitting on the Senate floor and giving testimony in, as you guys can attest to, in the hearing rooms for both the senators and the people that are in the House of Representatives. So they're going to miss that opportunity this year. But it's going to be a Zoom meeting, and I had 10 brave souls from the class. They're going to be presenting, and these are the bravest of the brave. These are your 5 out of those 10.
Yes, good job, guys.
One quick suggestion, since you are going to present this again. There are some people that do not hear as well as other people. And so it would be a good idea if you could speak something like the volume I'm speaking to you now, which I trust you can hear, even though I'm wearing a mask. So, you guys aren't masked. Don't speak at the volume as though you were. So, speak up, be proud, look them in the eye.
Yeah.
Or the camera in this case.
He's being a judge. Yeah.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
Good luck, thank you.
And there's some information in front of us, right? So
Yeah,
anybody
the
can take a
students'
look at that.
Boards that they're presenting are in front of you all, so, yeah.
To take a closer look. I forgot to take the moment of silence, and so I would like to do that at this time. We will pause for 1 minute. Yeah, do you have it up? Okay. We'll pause for 1 minute and take a moment of silence for our student Aubrey. Thank you. We are now at our transportation presentation.
Good evening, everyone. So some updates from transportation. We are long awaiting the arrival of our van we ordered last April. The production delays have been extensive, but it should arrive in June is what I've been told in the latest update. So that'll be a great addition to our van fleet. It's a 10-passenger van, so that will help with some of our smaller sports teams to be able to get to their sporting events. We've also ordered 4 new buses to replace our oldest buses. we'll finally bring our fleet up to all of them being above 2,000, because our oldest is 1998. And those are set to arrive in November, is the current expectation for those. And they'll be replacing 4 of our oldest ones, or most broken. The other updates and fun that we're getting ready for in transportation is we have the Fill the Bus event is back.
Oh.
And it will be August 20th from 9 to 3 in front of QFC. And QFC does a great job of putting together packages that have the school supplies all together right near the front. The bus drivers will be out there. It's all volunteer time. And we have our bus, and we'll have our little Buster bus out there for the kids. And we're coming up with some fun ideas to engage with the kids. And we always bring the bus rules and safety protocols with us to answer questions for parents. And the school supplies list, we'll have all those there, and lots of bus drivers for parents to meet and ask any questions they have.
That's nice.
And it's a great event. It brings in a lot of school supplies for our students to be able to use, and they get distributed throughout all the schools in little closets they have at each school to keep those supplies in for any student that needs them. And then
What date did you say that was again?
August 20th.
Oh, 20th.
From 9 to 3. And that's in front of the QFC here in Belfair. And then the other event we're planning for, we did it for the first time last year, was our transportation roundup. And we're going to do it again this year. It's on August 25th, the Thursday, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. so that families can make it that have been at work. And what we do there is any family that has never been on the bus, or they've got kids that maybe need a reminder on the bus safety rules before school starts, or they just need to come by and they want to see a bus and maybe they're nervous about riding the bus for the first time. They can come by the transportation department down at the bus garage. We'll have 2 buses, and we'll give them a safety demonstration, and we'll take them for a little ride on the bus and make it. It's a lot of fun. We had over 50 families show up last year.
Oh, wow.
And it was amazing. We had so much fun. And the drivers had a lot of fun doing it with the families and seeing all the kids and the excitement on their faces. It was a very successful event, so we're excited to do that again this year.
That's great. And what time did you say that was?
It'll be 5 p.m. to 7 p.m.
Okay. Anything to remove any sort of fear from the experience, right? That's awesome.
And it's great doing it right before school starts. It's less than a week before this first day of school, so kids can get that reminder and parents can get that reminder of what the bus expectations are and why those bus expectations exist.
Right. What do we do with the old buses?
So the old buses we send to auction, and the money that comes from them goes into our TVF to help us buy new buses. And the only thing we'll be taking off of the old buses is our brand new camera systems. We're transferring them from the old buses to the new buses.
Okay. That's great.
I had a question.
Yes, John.
It's my privilege to sit on the board of the Mason Transit Authority, and our last meeting, which was on this last Tuesday, we began our discussion about electric buses.
Yes.
And we authorized the administration to explore this possibility. I mean, they're hugely expensive and it's the future, but we've got to be forward-looking, and there are huge grants that we can get for them. And I was wondering, looking at the future, if you folks had done any gazing into the future and begun to think a little about the future of school buses and in an age where we're all going electric.
We have started to look at the process and look at the buses. Right now, currently, the electric school bus, the best mileage it can get is around 200 miles before it needs a full charge. And so that's a difficulty for our district because of the distance our buses travel and the sizes of our district. Because going up and down hills affects that distance that it can go 200 miles is on flat, straight Kansas highway, not up and down North Mason roads. But we have looked at it. The other barrier that we have is the cost. The cost of an electric bus is, well, the new buses that we just ordered were $125,000 a piece. The new electric bus would be between $325 and $350, and it all depends on the options that you get. So we're working on it. We're looking at them. We're trying to keep up with the data and the research on them, as well as some grants. When they did a grant a couple years ago that was really great, but if you had the money to purchase a bus at that time, then the reimbursement schedule from the state was actually it would reimburse for the full cost of an electric bus, where right now that's not necessarily the case. So we're looking into it. There's several meetings coming up for grants on that I'll be trying to attend, and I've set up with meetings with some of our distributors of the buses, the manufacturers, to talk to them about their electric buses and see what they've got available and where they think they're headed.
Well, great. I'm glad to hear it. I just happen to know it's coming to a county near you.
It is. It is.
It is hard to justify that cost, though.
It is, especially with our fleet right now, 67% being off the depreciation schedule. It's really hard to justify the cost of one bus that could replace many more than that.
Right, we're facing the same thing. So.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
We are now at the point on our agenda to discuss the Sammamish Data Systems Redistricting Report and maps that we all received ahead of the meeting.
So we forwarded to you the report from Sammamish Data Systems, who we contracted with to evaluate the latest census information. We do have a requirement that when the new census comes out, we have to evaluate the distribution of our director districts and get them to be as even with numbers of voters as possible. And so Sammamish Data Systems has done that for our district and really most districts for many, many years. And so earlier this year, you approved contracting with them to do this work. The maps that you received and the letter explain that they think they've come up with the best adjustments. The adjustments are actually, Laura's district, I think, gets adjusted the most, but there's not a great deal of change to our current director areas. It doesn't affect any of you being moved to an area that you aren't currently representing, which is nice. So the process is that next you would say to me, go ahead and have them put a presentation together, and then we'll bring that to a board meeting. Okay. And then at that board meeting, we have to have do at least a week's notice, make sure we have plenty of public notice out there, and then we would have a resolution to ratify the new plan that they've presented a draft of to us here tonight.
Yeah. Is there any discussion from the board about anything that we saw on those maps or read?
No, I think Dan just answered my question.
Yeah, I thought it was good that none of us live on like the borders of our districts. I barely saw any changes, so.
Well, my district was the biggest change,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
It got way bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is not a
It
bad
was,
thing.
and it got, was it taken from Leanna's or
Well,
from?
it kind of went down. It used to
From
be
Leanna's,
District
right, yeah.
5 down there.
Yeah.
And it sort of slopped into, my district sort of slopped into District 5, which is surprising because I didn't know that we had that big of a change in population. But yeah, it's all good.
Yeah. Well, I think that's good, and we look forward to their presentation.
All right.
We are now at board development and linkage and the superintendent's update. I also wanted to comment, at what point would we like to discuss the Wojtowicz condolences, or where would we like to add that to the agenda?
Let's do that. I would suggest that we do that during the, right before the monitoring reports or during the good
Yeah.
of the order.
How about right before the monitoring reports? It makes sense to me as like community linkage. Okay. So Dana, you're up.
Yes, so actually Viatan is going to start with
Oh,
our
yes.
budget status reports and the dashboard and financials.
Okay, we'll just start by taking a look at some of the other funds, starting with capital project. Our ending fund balance for capital project is about 400,000, 314, so it went up about $78. For our debt service fund, you're seeing that our ending fund balance is 1.9 million. It went up almost $700,000 from last month. That would be the local property tax money you're seeing. For the ASB, our ending fund balance is 421,000. It went up about 24,000. That makes sense. Kind of what everyone was talking about earlier. You know, tickets, fundraisers, all of that. And then transportation vehicle fund, we have an ending fund balance of 339,000. It went up about $62. All right, moving on to our enrollment update. We are at the month of April, so our enrollment update is about 2252. So that went down about 6 FTE, and so that's leaving our average for the year at 2,251 FTE year to date. Okay. And then looking at our dashboard for the general fund, we will go ahead and start with revenues. So remember that this data is as of April 30th, 2022. And starting with the red radio button, total revenue year to date, we have received about 67%, and we projected 70%. For local sources, the numbers are really high, about 600%, but that is because it's taking an average. So really, don't pay too much attention to that, but it is good to know that year to date we have received about $1.7 million of our local taxes. And I'm expecting that there will probably be a little bit more coming for next month. Sometimes the taxes get caught up the following month. So you'll see that percentage go up next month. And then for our state sources, blue radio button, we brought in about 65%, and we projected 66%. And for federal sources, we brought in 51%, and it was projected 61%. Looking at the top 10 sources of revenue, you can see that the apportionment is $13.7 million year to date as our top source. And then for the revenue by source, purple being current year, red being prior year, you'll see right there, that's what I was talking about. This purple bar is getting caught up. That's where you're seeing the $1.7 million being receipted. And then for the state sources, it is still more than it was last year. That makes sense. We have more student enrollment. And then for the federal sources, that's where you're seeing all of the ESSER money coming in, and that will continue to grow as the year goes on. All right. And then we'll do the exact same thing, but we'll take a look at the expenditure side. So our projected year-end balance is about 10% of our budgeted expenditures. And our total expenditure year-to-date is about 63%, and we projected 65%. And then for our salary and benefits, we projected 64%, and we're right at about 66% expenditures. And then for our basic ed funding, we projected 64%, and we've spent about 60% of basic ed money. And again, our top source of expenditure is basic ed, so year to date we've expended about 10.9 million. And then you can see ESSER is just a couple rows down at about 1.2 million. And then just real quickly, taking a look at the expenditure by object. Again, purple being current year, red being prior year. You'll see the first three parts are salaries and benefits. We are expending more this year than we did prior year. That makes sense. We did increase our staff. And then for supplies, we're right about where we are last year, just slightly more. And then purchase services, we are well over what we're expending year to date now than we were last year. That makes sense. We did have to expend extra services with school being open. Okay. And then third page, looking at our month-end balance, we are at the month of April. So our fund balance for April is about 4.1 million. Again, that includes levy money, and important to note that we are consistent with the trends that we have for previous years. And then our ending fund balance as of today is expected to be about 4 million. And we are well above that 8 to 10% that we need to be in order to make payroll. Okay. And then the final page, just a very high-end overview of our financial summary. Our current year-to-date total revenue is about 23.7 million, and we budgeted 35 million. And then for our expenditure, we expended about 23.7 million year-to-date, and we budgeted 36 million. So that is about the end of my report for April 30th, 2022, if anyone has any questions.
Thank you. Any questions?
I continue to be pleased with fiscal conservatism that you manifest on this, and I'm reassured that we're going to end the year with an appropriate surplus.
Yeah, our administrative team and myself, we work really hard to really watch that fund balance, and this year we'll be in good shape this year, as long as we continue doing what we're doing.
Well done.
Thank you. That's what it's all about.
Yes, that's right.
Okay, we're at teaching and learning update.
Well, and I get to start today with a couple of recognitions of folks, and I'm going to begin with the Wasa Certificate of Merit for Outstanding Community Leadership in Service to Education and the Young People of Washington. Normally, when we present this award and it's non-COVID environment, the board and the recipient and some of my leadership team are invited by Wasa to attend a banquet and at the casino on Bainbridge Island, and it's quite an elaborate event. So just like the kids that were presenting earlier don't get to go to Olympia and have quite the same experience, our recipient tonight also doesn't get that. But that does not mean that we don't have so much respect and thankfulness towards this person. Mike Young has contributed and continues to contribute to this district and to the benefit of our students in so many ways, through community sports, through participation in other ways of supporting kids and our schools throughout the community, through his leadership in getting our bond passed that resulted in our beautiful upper campus here. Through his continued work now as the voice of North Mason during our fall sports season. And there are just so many things that Mike continues to do to give back to our schools and our kids and our community. And we did want to take that moment to honor him and thank him so much for this. And we know he'll keep doing it. We're not going to let him stop. But Mike deserves to be recognized for his work. Wonderful. So Mike, you have to come up and
thank you, Mike.
Receive your award. and shake hands.
Can we get a photo?
Yes.
Can we take a photo of them, Amanda? She's gonna, yeah.
Oh, is that okay?
Yeah, for sure.
You can go stand. You're by the word.
Yeah, stand.
Right there. Not in front of you, right?
I think
I'm so short. It
yeah.
probably doesn't matter.
We're elevated.
Okay. Got everyone there. One more, a little closer. Thanks.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Hey, Pearl, thanks so much.
Thank you. So he doesn't get to go to Clear, is it at Clearwater? Oh, that's a bummer.
So we'll just, next time we get to do this, we'll just have to invite the past awardee as well. The other award I wanted to bring to your attention was actually presented to the district at a recognition ceremony at the Shelton Civic Center on April 26th. And this was a reward from the county of Mason County to different entities in our community that have been important contributors to the COVID-19 pandemic response. Our district was recognized for our work in planning and implementing so many areas of our response, but particularly the shot clinics that we began and served almost 20,000 people up here on campus, ensuring that people had access to the COVID vaccine. And I really wanted to emphasize the person who made all this work happen for the district and for our community. And, you know, when we're out there and people are lined up and somebody was having trouble standing in line, she found a way to go find a wheelchair or provide extra water or blankets and support. She stayed extra on her own time outside of her normal workday to ensure that everything that the personnel providing the clinic needed to make sure that it was successful for our community had what they needed. She coordinated our efforts with all of the responders, with the health people, with the Department of Emergency Management, and everybody that was here to make sure that it went well and effectively month after month, beginning in January through April of this year, to provide these supports for our community. So I want to take a moment to thank and recognize Joan Moore for all that work.
Thank you, Joan.
Except on behalf of the district. I did that.
I know, we did it already, but
we
with
don't think the
everybody
county
now.
made a big enough deal of your work, so we're doing it again.
Thank you, Joan.
Okay, then I did want to just bring to your attention, we did send a notice out to the community. I know the students were thrilled to get the notice that the state did approve our complete request for a waiver of the 2 snow days of the 3 that we have not had an opportunity to make up. So the last day of school remains June 17th. And we didn't also have to make an adjustment to graduation because of those days as well. So school will end on June 17th for students. Staff will, instructional staff that have a 180-day contract will continue to have 2 days to work the following week to make up those days so that they can get actually paid for them.
Right.
And that's where we are.
So that will be through, are they taking?
21st and the 22nd.
Yeah.
June 20th is observed now as a federal and state holiday because of Juneteenth, June 19th, which takes place on Sunday of this year. It is not yet a school holiday. That will happen after July 1st of this year, but in recognition of all of our families and the many places they work, we know that last year when Juneteenth was first declared a national holiday, the day before, it was very important and caused some consternation for our families who were federal employees that we couldn't move that fast to go from 4 p.m. one day when we found out to having no school the next day. So we're honoring that for our employees who have spouses and children and et cetera. And so that will be a non-work day this year. And the makeup days will be the following days, the 21st and 22nd, for staff that need to do that.
When the state approves the waiver, do they make any sort of comment at all?
No, they just said.
They'd say yes or no.
I got a very simple letter that said, your request has been approved.
That's good.
Yes.
Just wondering if there was any, like, you know, it was a success, so how can we use that next time? If there was any, like, reasoning that they really liked, because I know there were some of the days we just
because our reasoning was a little out there, actually, and I wasn't actually expecting to get both days approved. But I talked to them too, in addition to the filling out the document, the request, and really explained the impact on our kids. And typically, the waiver language that OSPI has in WAC says that for those days that you have to come back and make up after June 14th or 15th, and our school year was already scheduled to be on that. So I was able to use that as part of our reasoning why it would be egregious for our kids to have to come and make up those other days in the following week after a long weekend.
Yeah.
And that we still have, the important part is that we still have the required number of minutes of instruction without those 2 days. Barely, but we do. And that is what allowed them to grant our waiver.
Good. Capital projects, is there an update? Okay. We are at the upcoming board letter columnists. May, this month is Laura, and next month in June I have the letter. In July will be your first community letter, and we just send those to Jackie and we work with Dana if we need topics. August is John, and September is Leanna. At this moment in time, we will have the discussion about the vote on sending condolences to the Wojtowicz family. Do I hear a motion to send condolences to the Wojtowicz family?
Do we need to move that, or can we just ask the superintendent to do that?
I think we can go either way, right?
It's up to you guys.
Were you envisioning a vote, like, from the board?
I'd be happy to help draft.
Okay.
Maybe Laura could check it over. I'm doing a similar thing for the MTA, so I want to, I want to make I want to customize it.
Well, I think if you're going to draft a letter, John, why don't you just send that draft to the board and get the feedback, and then
All right.
you move on from there. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, and if somebody wanted to change any language or that kind of thing, all the better.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we go ahead and direct John to start that condolences note and send it out to the board for feedback, and then send it to Dana to send out on our behalf in the districts. Do I hear or we vote? We don't have to?
No.
Okay, all right. We are at monitoring reports.
All in favor?
Oh, we do have to vote. I was asking
you had
that.
a motion, so you have to vote.
Okay, that's what I was saying. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion passes. We are at the monitoring reports, and there is no action because we don't have any monitoring reports to review at this time. And then we are now at the discussion period for our policies that we reviewed and that we had discussed and made revisions to last time. Is there any discussion? I'll go one by one. Is there any discussion on ER 11, the district calendar? On that particular policy? Okay. How about E6, the educational equity? Any discussion?
I have a couple of items would be good to discuss. I'm trying to get the thing.
Try the other button. There you go.
Wow. Okay. I have some comments and some suggestions for a couple of lines. The first is line 42/43, and then the other one is the very last two sentences in the piece on page 2. So both of these are on page 2. So the first one is 42, here we go, on line 42. It says elimination, and so it says on the heading there, you'll see on line 35, NMSD employees will work together to increase their individual and collective capacity to effectively teach a diverse and changing student population by ensuring a positive and academically rigorous school environment, etc., collaborating as teachers and administration to create and implement culturally responsive instructional practices, etc. And then it says, which is the one I'm interested in here, the last one says, eliminating practices that lead to the over or under representation of any student group compared to peers. It just struck me as a bit vague, and I had some language that I would submit, at least as a suggested improvement. I realize we're not going to vote on this, but I just wanted to run it past you. And, all right, eliminating, okay. My draft would be eliminating practices that let's see, am I right? Eliminating practices that discourage any group of students from pursuing careers in certain fields, especially those in which they've been historically underrepresented.
Okay.
Is that the same?
It is, but I would want to share, I hear what you're saying, and that might be another bullet we want to add. But the over and under representation that is specifically referred to in the current draft, is that required by the legislature, looking at over or under representation in certain things. So for example, over representation of a demographic group of students in the how many discipline actions that group of students gets. So is there a higher percentage of students of color who have days of suspension than the general student population, as an example? Or is there underrepresentation in students who graduate on time? Are there fewer students in the homeless group who graduate on time than in the entire population? So that was the intent of that bullet, which is different than what you just said, but what you just said is also an important point.
Well, maybe I needed to have seen that sentence in the context of the larger policy.
Probably, yeah.
To get it, I focus on the sentence level and sometimes.
Well, this is a very complicated and long
Yes,
policy,
right.
and you know, you guys worked on it during the summer, and we adopted it at that time. And because of the complexity of the issue, this is a policy that you asked that we handle differently currently than our other policies. Most of our policy governance policies I report to you once a year, and we make changes or recommendations on that time because of our ongoing equity work and our commitment to making sure we have the right stuff happening. You've asked that we have 3 reports a year on this policy. So I think by the time we get to that 3rd report in August, we'll kind of been through all of the pieces we want to touch, and that will give a more complete picture of both the work and any ideas that you have for adjustments to the policy.
Do you have other discussion points, John?
Yeah, I
on
have
this?
a discussion point on the very last 2 sentences, starting on number 46, is on page 2, line 46, 47, 48. I'll just read it as given here. North Mesa School District will ensure that every child gets what they need every day in order to have all the skills and tools to pursue whatever they want after leaving our schools to live a fulfilling life. period. Equity is about outcomes and experiences for every child every day. Okay, I have a point of, I think, principled disagreement with this. I don't think we're in the business of helping students pursue whatever they want. You might want to be a gun runner. You might want to be any number of different things, but there are certain things that by state law, we are concerned that they get, and it's not just anything they want.
Yeah, so when
I
we,
disagree, I have some alternative language for that,
Good.
but this is, that was the critique. I don't think we're in the business of giving students tools to pursue whatever they want. As a matter of fact, I think that line could be effectively used against public education. And there are people not who would not self-censor themselves and would be happy to offer that critique. Now, the next one is, equity is about outcomes and experiences for every child every day. It seems to me the statement is empty. Try this, try its opposite. Inequity is about outcomes and experiences for every child every day. So if you just change it, it makes no difference whatever, which simply makes my point that outcomes and experiences are ungrounded. And I think that they should be made more specific. I will have some language that I can propose for the first sentence. I just leave the second point open. From my point of view, you just kill that one. Just leave it out. But here's what I propose for the first one. North Mason School District will ensure that every child gets, get your eyes and the line, okay? Every child gets what they need to have all of the skills, tools, and understanding necessary to finding satisfying careers and pursuing fulfilling lives.
very nice.
As a writer, I do appreciate your sentence deconstruction, John. I think, although you could argue with your sentence that somebody's version of a fulfilling life and satisfying career could still be something that may be outside of what we are wanting them to do and gain from the experience here. I think you could get really nitpicky about any language like that. But I suggest that you bring these changes to Dana and she can incorporate them and work them into the next time we review this policy in August.
Okay.
Does that work for you?
I'm happy, more than happy to show the superintendent my work.
Yeah. Any other discussion on this policy?
So I have a couple things going off of what John said. I didn't realize that we were making changes last board meeting, but these can wait.
Well, we're not right now.
Yeah.
Not until
He's saying he
August.
didn't
Until
recognize
August.
it
Yeah, I
last
didn't
time.
realize that. But something going off of what John says, yeah, that very last line, equity is about outcomes and experiences for every child every day. Yeah, that kind of does seem like an empty, just kind of final line. So maybe we could, equity is all about giving students what they need to accomplish their goals, and in this case, it's graduating. So maybe we could say equity is about providing all students with the tools and skills that they need to meet their goals and graduate, or something
I like
along
that.
those lines.
Okay.
Yeah,
Those are
And-
good suggestions.
Maybe you could
Write that down
send that
before you
to
forget.
Dana, so that when we review this again in August, we can make.
We have your work
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I'll do half of it and you do half of it.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to add was line 47, also kind of going off of what John said. It says, North Mason School District will ensure that every child gets what they need every day in order to have all the skills to pursue wherever they want when leaving our schools. I would like to maybe add something says, in order to have all the skills and tools to graduate and to pursue whatever they want after leaving our schools, because our part of public education is to prepare them for life, but we also want them to graduate and get that
I
degree.
agree. I think that the specificity
That's another
of
good
that is very
suggestion. You
good.
should send it to her.
Great.
And then I do have one more minor thing. Dana, correct me, this may be language required by the legislature, but it says focus on line 30 and 31, says focusing on accountability systems and metrics on equitable results with a priority on racial equity. And this is talking about, this is in section B, leadership on improved academic and improving academic results. I would just like to add racial and learning equity, because if everyone has access to an equitable learning environment and gets what they need, that that should help them improve their academic results and their state testing scores.
I think that's something we can discuss too, Morgan. The racial equity phrase is a requirement of the legislation.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And the legislation targets the entire school environment, so it targets your academic learning, your social emotional environment, how we treat the behaviors of all of our kids. So there's multiple things there. So I think that is worth a discussion when we come back to this.
Okay, sounds good.
Please save all your notes and.
Well, and Jackie will make note of all your comments too, so.
Yeah, okay.
Awesome. Any other discussion? Okay. Nope. We are now at the adjournment portion of our evening. We're at the good of the order, board and superintendent. This is an opportunity for any board members to, and the superintendent, to make any comments or announcements that may or may not be related to the agenda, or any public comments. Go ahead.
I do want to highlight a couple things. You heard about the exciting things happening in transportation this summer. Since Amanda has come on board and begun to work with us as a district, we have some other family and community events planned for August as well. We don't have dates yet. The team is still working on that, so we will share those with the board and with the whole community as soon as we have everything planned. But we actually looked at an end of the year June event too, but we decided it'd probably be better to have more time to put together a really strong event for the first time we do it. So we are going to invite the community to a picnic before school begins. It will be a community event to celebrate school and the opportunity to come back to school. People will be invited to bring their picnic lunches. We will work with some community vendors to be there to be able to have food if people want to get it from them too. We aren't going to provide food at that meeting, but we will work to have students maybe performing some music pieces. We will have different departments in schools with tables, like answering questions about the nurses, what's up with your measles, your other vaccines, how do you take care of that, how do you take care of if you're bringing medication to school, how do you register kids for kindergarten or new students to the community if you haven't done that so far, community counseling, health centers, different Little League, different people can be there with their opportunities for people to find out about things in North Mason. But it will just be kind of a fun afternoon on a Saturday afternoon from 1 to 3-ish. And we're going to ask that the board, the administrators be there. Then we're going to invite all of our staff to participate as well. It's not a requirement, so we're not going to pay people to be there. But if they want to come, it would be really wonderful. So
A Saturday in August?
It will be a Saturday in August, and you'll be hearing about it soon from
Lock it down.
Amanda and Mateo and Jen, who are our family
wonderful.
coordinators. They're working on it together. The other piece that Amanda is working on with Carolyn and the Human Resources Department is a North Mason job fair for jobs that we will have open, classified, and certificated in the fall. so that, and it will also be an August job fair so that people can find out about them and come and apply and go through the process and get help with the process and all of those things. So we're very excited about that. You know, we do have openings in transportation, we have openings in maintenance and facilities, and people are, you know, people are still not applying for jobs that they would have applied for a few years ago as a result of COVID. In fact, I think Joan's about ready to advertise for 18-year-old students that want to do some yard work this summer up here on campus, because we've had the positions posted and nobody's applying. And so, and we've had lots of people apply in the past, so that will go out to school if we do that. Morgan, I see you taking notes. So.
Yeah, if you want, I could
Well, we'll
announce
put it in the
this,
bulletin.
Because, yeah,
Yeah.
sure there'll be people wanting this.
We did already? It's already in the bulletin? Oh, so you might remind people.
Yes, I will, thank you.
All right.
Is the job
And
fair-
we
sorry.
have like paraprofessional, all sorts of substitute positions, emergency subs. So for teachers, there will be a lot of opportunities. And we're not going to invite other school districts to participate this year because it's our first year. We'll see how it goes. But we do want to give people in our community a better understanding of the positions that we have and maybe some in-person time, because you know, sometimes for people still, an all online application process, not everybody's there yet. And if that's intimidating and keeping people away, then we want to take that piece out of that barrier away so that people can apply for positions that we have.
That's great. I was going to ask if we've had a job fair before, but you said first time.
No, we've gone to job fairs that are like for teachers and
Yeah.
stuff, other places, but this is just going to be for our school district, for our community members who might be interested in our positions.
Like in the high school commons.
Somewhere like that.
Very nice. Laura, do you have anything for the good of the order? I'll just go around this way.
No, I don't, except I really appreciate having our new board member.
Here, here.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Eric, anything for the good of the order?
I do not.
Well, I have two things. On Saturday, June 4th, from 1 to 4, the Barnacles and Bees Outdoor Preschool is having a community and family jamboree. This is the preschool that rents from the school district the Theller space. These are kids that will eventually be in the North Mason School District. There's going to be food, and the kids will do like songs and presentations, and Hendrix will be there, and he's super cute.
So
My
when,
son.
so when is this?
Saturday, June 4th, from 1 to 4 at the Salmon Center. And my only other comment was a question about, should we do a board retreat this summer?
Yeah, you know, we have scheduled for the board members to attend the policy governance online training.
Yes.
And I think once we see that, and there's some really good information there that we've talked about briefly about how to use the model to engage our community in some strategic planning.
Visioning,
And we
yeah.
really need to refresh that work and
Yes,
get our
we do.
community involved. So once we have seen that, then I think maybe we want to look at an August board retreat and then follow that up with some community meetings and discussions
Yes.
to gain some input on what we're thinking and where we're
What
going.
is our vision? Yes, I love that. Okay, thank you. John, anything for the good of the order?
Well, yes, I would like to, this is kind of a shout out to Julie. She has been active in the Project Citizen
Oh.
for years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I suppose I could count it back at least 10.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the best pictures of me, that if I ever run for governor, which I don't think I will, is with Julie, her kids in the Senate chamber. That's what, and she's been so faithful in this over so many years. And it's so, what she's teaching grows more important as our political horizons darken, both at home and abroad. And one of the things that I think that she does that's particularly important deserves mention. Sometimes the presentations are better, and sometimes they're worse. But the key thing is that the kids are actively involved in the very core activity of democracy, which is challenging public policies and offering alternatives to them. And I think the habit ingrained of that activity speaks as much as articulate presentations that may win prizes. And I just think that if you think of what she's done over maybe decades, but certainly over 1 decade, I just think that she, if there was a certificate for Defender of Democracy at North Mason, that she would be a good candidate for that. I just appreciate the way she's been so faithful in focusing kids on the possibility of peaceful change in our mode of government, with all its imperfections as it is. You can still get things done. And our kids have shown that once one of their projects actually helped change a state law. And that's all I need to say. Kudos for Julie.
You know, John, I'm sure she would appreciate an email reflecting everything that you just said. If I were her, I would like to get that email.
If I were me, I would like to send it.
There you go.
That's great. Okay, Morgan?
All that I would like to say is, yeah, I am so proud of Miss Lester and her class. Some of those kids, they didn't stay. It was probably good because they looked really bored at the beginning, to be honest. So, but I am glad they managed to push through. They did their presentation. They did great. I feel bad for them because they can't go to the Senate and sit on the floor. Me and Audrey got to a couple years ago, but hopefully the next group will be able to. And Miss Lester has done such a good job, not just with Project Citizen, but she teaches about how the government works and the Constitution, which is great, especially these days. We need kids more than ever that know our founding documents. And because there's some people in Congress, you hear them talk, you're like, oh, good grief, why are these people talking? They don't know anything. And it's one of those things, we need people they need to realize that it's their government. They can come in, they can make these changes peacefully, they can challenge public policy. And that's what helped get me started in some of these things. And I am glad to see she is still going strong. And that program is still doing great even after COVID. They've done a great job rebounding, and I can't wait to see what they do with these policies in the future.
I just want to add to what you said. You mentioned boredom, and that's central to democracy too. Getting kids to do that.
Yeah, sitting through these meetings, yeah. Or any government meetings.
I have nothing to say other than yes, kudos to Miss Lester and her team of students.
Neither of you, are you graduating this year?
Neither of us are graduating. We're back. Sorry.
I do have something I want to say. I did tune into a webinar that School Directors Association, in cooperation with Association of School Administrators and OSPI, presented a webinar on, it was a student panel on educational equity from a student's perspective. Were you in on that?
I was not. I missed it at that time. It
was excellent, and there's way too much for me to talk about tonight, but it was an eye-opener and a very sobering experience. So someday soon I'll talk about that.
Yeah, I think there are a few similar student panels in the works. It sounds like, talking to some of the guys at WASDA.
Unbelievably articulate and open, and were able to express themselves in a very risk-free environment. It was really good.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, board self-assessment of our meeting.
Okay.
Director Bode, go ahead.
I don't have the thing here, but I'll just read it off my screen. So the general meeting behavior, we do this at every single meeting so that we can assess how we behave and act. And it's kind of a report card for ourselves. And I'll read everything as satisfactory, but I would also like to say that the agenda was well planned to focus on the real work of the board. The board followed the agenda and did not allow itself to get sidetracked. Board members prepared for and contributed to the meeting. It proceeded without interruptions or distractions. The deliberations and decision-making process was public. Participation was balanced. All participated, no one dominated. Members listened attentively, avoiding side conversations, and the work was conducted in an atmosphere of trust and openness. Meeting participants treated each other with respect and courtesy. So all of those are satisfactory. As far as the governance principles review, I believe all of these principles were followed. Yes, the board actions occur at the policy level rather than the operational level. The board reviews policy about each topic before discussing that issue. We didn't really have very many issues that were related exactly to board policy. However, we did have a good discussion on the review of educational equity. We didn't write any additional policies. The board minimizes time spent monitoring past performance, which is what I'm doing right now. And the board routinely dedicates time to reviewing, improving its own process, which is what we're doing right now. And the board clarifies priorities, values when considering potential outcomes, beneficiaries, and costs of outcomes. The board follows an annual calendar based on a plan for doing its work. The board chair helps the board efficiently conduct its meeting. Thank you very much, Arla. The board spends most of its time deliberating issues, defining and clarifying its vision, and linking with its community as opposed to fixing things. The board supports the superintendent in any reasonable interpretation of its policies. And overall, I find our work to be satisfactory.
Thank you. All right, our next school board meeting will be held on June 16th at 6:30 here in the administration boardroom. And I am going to go ahead and adjourn at 8:01.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Woo.